Welcome back to the 2017 Canadian Lawn Bowling Championships. I'm Jake Shuknick, joined by Daryl Fitzgerald this afternoon. How you doing, Daryl?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a great afternoon for some streaming of bowls. We've got a lot of good games going on.
Just about called you Gerald, as that's what you were called on Sunday night. Anywho, men's pairs in front of us here this afternoon. We have Saskatchewan featuring Jonathan Petuli and Mike Petuli. And then we have British Columbia A, which is Kerry Mans at lead and Keenan Lau at skip. And as usual, BC has the gold stickers and Saskatchewan has green stickers. And in case that wasn't enough to tell you, Mike Petuli's rolling some green bowls here as well, so you can...
Yeah, he's rocking the Saskatchewan colors on his bowls. Green through and through.
Mm-hmm.
And I know John Petuli's bowling with the blue bowls, so you'll see BC with black and Saskatchewan with colored bowls.
Well, that'll make things nice and easy to distinguish then. Just look
Absolutely.
for black versus color. I found it a little tricky during some of the games this week that we've been broadcasting based on similar colored bowls on opposing teams, so this will be nice and easy to distinguish. Looks like afternoon on this rink is the Saskatchewan affair. Yesterday afternoon we watched Saskatchewan men's triples. Now this afternoon Saskatchewan men's pairs.
Michael's holding a tight shot and two useful bowls out in front. He's just looking to better this. See how it plays on this side. Just cutting in front. That's going to make it a little more difficult for Kerry to get around.
Could be holding a couple there though. That might even be in the count.
And for those that have been around the bowl scene for a little while, you might know obviously the Petulis with the Petuli family. Harriet and Murray are also playing in this event. But Kerry Mans is a staple on the BC side. You often see him playing fours. That's usually where you find him end up. But it might surprise you to see him playing lead. That's not something that you see every day.
Mm-hmm. He's got some brilliant pink Nikes that he's rocking today.
He's always styling with the shoes. I don't think I've ever seen him with a boring pair of shoes on. I think he's got like 1 million pairs.
That would surprise me. You know, Mike Petuli also usually has a plethora of shoes. I remember one year at the juniors, he came packing and he ripped out 8 pairs of shoes that he brought with him.
That's incredible.
All different colors to match different outfits. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to us on Facebook at BCB Bowls on Twitter, at BCB Official on Facebook. And you can reach Daryl on Twitter at Canadian Bowler. Keenan is rocking some dark blue bowls here, so I guess Kerry's actually the only one with black bowls. But
that's true.
John is a lefty.
That just makes him weird.
Well, he takes off after his dad that way. Murray's a lefty too, and then Mike and Harriet are right-handers.
I play a lot of lefties back home, and they can make some shots that will dazzle you
Mm-hmm.
on certain rinks, because just the angle of delivery and where they're coming from. So
I feel like I haven't really met a bad left-handed player. Most of the left-handed players that I've ever played against are all really good.
Keenan just playing a little bit through the head there, trying to catch carries to roll him in again.
I think John's looking at working with Mike's bowls over there.
Some of you may know that John and Mike are the defending pairs champions.
Mm-hmm.
They won gold last year in Edmonton, and they're looking to make a repeat here in BC.
I was talking earlier today. They played against Ontario A in the round earlier today, and Ontario A and Saskatchewan in the men's pairs are tied for first, so the Petuli boys picked up a win to solidify their position up top. But this BCA team is currently in second place. They're 5-2, and the Petulies are 5-1-1. So once again, they're playing, against the second place team of the pool. So it was tough this morning, and it's tough again this afternoon here, as these games are really, really crucial.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of meaningful games out there. Right next door, we've got Alberta A, Greg Wilson and Derek Dillon playing Ontario B, which is Steve McCarahan and Freddie Wallbank.
Alberta is 4-3, and Ontario B is 3-4.
Could shake up the middle of the pack there. And farther down, we've got Ontario A playing Nova Scotia, and that can make some noise as well in the standings, depending on who wins.
Yeah, those are 3-4. Ontario A is 4-2-1, and Nova Scotia is also 4-2-1. So those guys are both tied for third, trying to get into the top two. I'm on the Bulls Canada website here, looking at the standings. If you go to Championships at the top and go to Canadian Championships, you can scroll down and find standings. The men's triples field right now is just absolutely ridiculous. There's Ontario B in first place at 5-2, but after that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams are tied for second with 4-3 records. 2 teams below that at 3-4, which makes it a very, very tough field. There's only 2 teams at the bottom at 2-5, but men's triples is certainly a dog's breakfast.
It looks like some teams have had good games, some teams have had bad games, just at the wrong times. And wow, a loss here and a loss there, or a win here and a win there, and you could be shooting right up those rankings.
So Saskatchewan did pick up 2 that first end to make it 2-0. And since this is pairs again, it's a full 18-end game. This could be
a little short there.
This could be a very good matchup between these two teams. I like how they're positioned. I would expect there to be a good battle between Kerry and Mike. As you were mentioning, as Kerry being a staple of the BC team here, Kerry's also represented Canada a few times. He's played at the North American Challenge, and Mike is currently on our senior squad, so these are 2 very well-experienced players playing on the front end. So Mike is currently lying 1, maybe 2, and as is the case of earlier in this week, all week really, rank number 1 here, it's not really on the edge of the deck. It's brought in a fair bit, but it is still an end rink, and it is a little finicky on the ditch side hand. But both of these players seem to have figured things out here pretty quick, as Kerry just rolled up a pretty good draw there.
As you can see, these players don't take much time at all. Michael releases his ball and Kerry's already on the mat.
Mike's just coming up a yard short or so. And Kerry's inside looking for a good rub and didn't quite get it.
Just trying to play underneath Michael's because I don't think it'll actually it'll float back in from that side. It's a little bit of a looser end this time.
This is only the second end though, so we'll hopefully see things tighten up, although from the games we streamed earlier, it tended to get a little looser as the games wore on, as the greens picked up pace and lines got trickier and trickier to find. Keaton has a pretty nice delivery there. He's almost on his tiptoes before he delivers. That's a very forward momentum type of delivery.
Yeah, his back stays absolutely straight. You can see John's got an interesting push delivery. He said that as long as I've known him.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't changed much
No.
over the years. A few of these guys have some wicked, wicked drives that they can pull out of their back pocket if they want to.
I don't know if I've ever actually watched Keenan play before, so I'm interested to see what he has in his tool bag.
I'm not sure about his drive. I don't think I've actually seen him throw a lot of drives, but Kerry and John can both rip them for sure, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Kerry on his fourth bowl rip one if things are not going his way. And I'm interested to see if they'll play with the mat much to try to find some good lines and good areas to draw to on this rink, because it can be very, very tricky, as we can see right now.
Mm-hmm. When we streamed this morning, the women's pairs, the very first end, Clarice Fitzpatrick brought the mat way up, which I thought was an interesting way to start the game.
John taking a
John's
really
taking
good
a
look.
really good look here, yeah. John is recently married. He had his wedding here this year. I think it was in January, the last week of January, out in snowy Saskatchewan. He's also a member of our competition committee, so I've been in contact with him many, many times about this, that, and the other issues that have been popping up throughout the year. And
There you go.
beautiful shot there.
Sometimes a little discussion helps get you the perfect draw, right?
Mm-hmm. Keith Roney is the Saskatchewan team manager. He's walking around here with a wicked sandal tan. That is looking beautiful.
Oh, Kino may be throwing. Nope.
No, just nice through weight. Just reaching. Almost got the result he was looking for.
Almost, yeah. One down.
So 1 Saskatchewan to make it 3-0.
I'm doing good, thanks. Haren Bar 2, just strolling on by
Strolling on through.
with his Indiana Jones hat. Haren is also obviously another staple of the BC side. We've seen him play for many years, mixed pairs, Canadians, PBA as well.
Mm-hmm. Indoor singles.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's been around.
Mm-hmm. So there are definitely some big changes coming to the National Championships starting next year. If you have any questions or concerns about them, feel free to send us a message or an email. You can email office@bowlscanada.com, or you can, during this broadcast, reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook and ask some questions, get some clarity around that. It will eventually be on the website once it's finished being translated. That is a requirement as a national sport organization to have things in both official languages, English and French. So Mike's starting to really catch on here quick. Those are two excellent starting bowls here, and it almost takes away that non-ditch hand from Kerry.
Kerry's been staying on this ditch side. See if he can make his adjustments. Very difficult to get right back to the center line.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be pretty bang on.
Looks like Steve McCarahan was throwing some weight there in the rink next door.
Yeah, we saw some bowl scatter.
Good shot there from Mike. Speaking of Steve and Greg next door, that's actually a rematch for the Skips, and I guess even the front end players. Steve and Fred were on the gold medal Force team last year, and Greg and Derek, I believe, were on the silver medal Force team. They met in the final. Not sure if Derek was on that team. I think he was.
He was, yeah. Yeah. definitely it's definitely a rematch of at least part of the teams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One half.
One half, yeah, that's right. So quick on the mat, these guys.
Yeah.
This could be the fastest game on this deck, I would assume.
Yeah, it's just a tough line to grab that, but I know Kerry's just looking to either catch the ball or catch the jack and dribble it back.
I wouldn't be surprised if John's reaching here just in case Keenan tries to pick up the white on his way through, so I would expect a slightly backish bull from John, still, you know, in the area.
Yeah, mid-length, split those two black balls.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just sliding in through.
Just sliding through, yeah. That's pretty much what I expected.
Doesn't change the shot for Keenan.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really change much for Keenan here. That's a very fine line he's got to find, though.
Looks like as soon as you start to cheat a bit towards the center line, it starts to take off. So.
All right, got a quick message here from Shane O'Flaherty. I apologize if I butchered that name. Can we get a quick summary of the changes for the Nationals and the reasoning behind it? So there's really no way I can do this quickly, but I can definitely describe it. So for the Nationals next year, it'll consist of fours, almost the exact same as it is here, just a few more ends. I think right now it's set at 18 ends, and pairs, but it'll be 3 bull pairs, and that'll take place 3 games a day over the course of 3, 4, or 5 days, depending on the venue. And immediately following that will be the singles, and that'll be sort of the qualifier for the Champion of Champions. Each province is going to have a set amount of entries they're allowed. I don't know those off the top of my head, but I know the bigger provinces like BC and Ontario get 4, while the smaller provinces like New Brunswick and I think New Brunswick PEI get 1, and then Quebec and Nova Scotia get 2 or something like that. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I apologize for that. But it'll be fours and pairs for the first half, and then singles for the second half. You can compete in both, so if you play the fours, you can then play the singles after, or if you play the pairs, you can play the singles after. But these are sort of a high-performance track type of event. I really should be getting into more detail behind this to explain it better, but since I can't really show you visuals of our long-term athlete development plan, it would be very difficult for me to explain here. But anyone competing in the majors, so whether that's the pairs, the fours, the singles, the indoor singles, or the youth championships, is not eligible to compete in the mixed pairs or seniors at the national level. So you can still play at your provincial level and try to qualify, but if you lose, you can still play in the others at the provincial level. It's just at the national level you can't compete in the Canadian mixed pairs and the Canadian singles, for example. The rationale for that is that the demographic that we're trying to reach, the way it stands right now, when you can compete in all of those, we've seen people who compete in the majors and then medal, and then go and compete in the seniors and medal, and the mixed pairs and medal. And that's not exactly ideal for us to have a championship where it's just the same handful of people that go and medal at all the events. That's really discouraging to participation and to bowlers trying to develop. So we've identified that mixed pairs isn't a sort of a excellent stream event. It's more targeted towards the active for life athlete. And so we don't want people who are potentially on our national team or winning gold medals at the majors going in there and just cleaning house against some of these less experienced players. And so that's part of the rationale for that. For the pairs and fours, they're starting to sort of mimic what is seen internationally. That's why it's 3 bull pairs. It's kind of an attempt to make it so that way we're better preparing our athletes when they do compete internationally, as we're trying to make this more of a stepping stone, the majors, to being on the national team or playing internationally. The big focus here is long-term athlete development, and so how can we really develop our athletes in Canada at every level? So we're sort of making the events more exclusive to each level of development, where the majors are now really focused towards those higher performing athletes, and the mixed pairs is more for that athlete for life type of bowler. So that is some of the changes. The youth championships are also changing. We'll have the under 18s and under 25s held at the same time. They'll play singles in the morning and join up to play pairs in the afternoon, and that's also mimicking the World Youth Championships, so that way our representatives are ready for that. It can be quite a challenge to go and play singles in the morning and then pairs in the afternoon, so by mimicking that event, we'll hopefully prepare our athletes better for when they represent Canada to compete at the World Youth Championships. And the singles that follows the majors is going to be 21 points, while the indoor singles will still be sets. And the rationale for that is we want to offer both formats at a national level, even though Champion of Champions is sets. There's been a lot of controversy over that, and I know that a lot of people disagree with that, but if we made it match exactly for sets, then both of our singles events would be sets, and we wouldn't have any singles events that people could play in where it's 21 points, and that's something we still need to offer to allow our athletes to at least experience it. There's also been some concern over why did triples disappear, and part of that is due to limited resources. We can't continue down the same path we've been going here. It's unsustainable for us to continue offering championships in the format that they are now. Many people don't know this, but Bowls Canada puts in between $80,000 and $100,000 each year into the national championships, and it's a lot of money, and it's not sustainable in the current format. So we had to, unfortunately, cut some costs and make some tough decisions. And so we had to cut things back, and we cut out a few days. All of the events now are going to be much, much quicker. By playing 3 games a day, it saves a few days, so that makes it cheaper for the athletes, more affordable for the host club as they don't need to give up their greens for so long, and it's just more sustainable all around. It also allows more clubs to host. Starting next year, any club with just 2 decks can host, whereas before we required at least 3, usually 4. I feel like I've been babbling for a very long time here without...
Nice quick summary that you gave
yeah,
there.
nice quick summary. That's been, what, like 2 ends that I've just been going non-stop?
No, we're still on.
Playing end number 4 here now. Let's see if I can update the end. But yeah, I know that a lot of provinces really prefer triples, and that's absolutely fine. I don't disagree with that at all, but as we found out through this extensive competition review process, if we didn't offer 4s at the national level, most provinces would stop running 4s tournaments altogether, and that's not very conducive to athlete development at all. 4s is still a very big part of the international game. Any world championship or international event, most of them still do have 4s, although they do have all events, singles, pairs, triples, and 4s, but it's not, we wouldn't be doing our job if we cut out 4s and then had all the provinces stop running 4s, and then our athletes that are coming up through the ranks just never even got to experience 4s at all. But since triples is more popular, then it can still be played at the provinces, and many provinces will continue to run triples tournaments, which is excellent. And as well, 4s offers a little bit of a different format, a different style that can be different than triples in the sense that there's the second position in 4s. If you're playing triples and you're playing 2-bowl triples, which is what is played internationally, playing lead for triples and playing lead for 4s is almost the exact same. If it's 2-bowl triples, it's still 2 bowls for 4s, 2 bowls for triples, it's almost the exact same. If you're playing vice in triples and vice in 4s and skip in triples and skip in 4s, they're very, very similar. But what triples doesn't have is that second position that 4s has, and so by keeping 4s, it allows that greater opportunity for development. It's arguably much harder to stay involved and focused in a 4s game than it is a triples game, especially if you're in the front end. There's a lot more time between bowls, and so we decided that 4s is a much better developmental opportunity for our athletes. It would allow our players to develop and experience more of the game and set them up for success better. And while I was talking there, I believe BC counted to get on the board here.
That's right. Keenan forfeited his last bowl, thinking that he could do more damage than good because Michael Petulli had one bowl just behind, and he touched on the jack, could have probably squeezed it back there and given up the shot.
So was that one, I believe, for BC?
Yeah.
I see a few more questions coming in here on Facebook, which is great to see. I'll get to those in a second once I'm done updating the scoreboard. 4 ends down. I can see the scoreboard from here. I just need to lean over a little bit, so that's okay. Alright. There's going to be more games a day with the new system for the juniors. Seems with the new rules and the size of an open event, we would probably have 5 games a day. That's still sort of up for debate there, John, about the juniors. I believe the intent is going to be 2 games of singles in the morning and 2 games of mixed pairs in the afternoon, as that's what's done internationally at the World Youth Championships. But a lot of that will boil down to how many entries there are, because if there's only 3 people signed up, it doesn't make much sense to have 2 games in the morning, 2 games in the afternoon, or if there's 107 people signed up, then we might need to have more than that. So that really still does depend on number of people that'll register for it. Yeah. John's saying triples is much more popular in Nova Scotia. Hope the competition committee will be looking at the changes after the 18 season, see what worked and what will benefit all provinces. Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. When we worked with all of the provinces, and this was a very open process as we worked with every province and met with them individually, it was a pretty close to even split between which provinces wanted triples and fours, so it was pretty close to being 50-50. But again, while some provinces may like one option over the other, we still need to look at what we're doing best to develop our players as a whole across the country. Realistically, if we were looking at just the smaller provinces, then we might just be running a mixed pairs event, because some of the smaller provinces like PEI tend to come to that, but they don't send teams to the majors. So if we focus solely on small provinces, then we would have a totally different championship than what we do now. And we definitely do need to keep that into account when we make these decisions, but we still need to look at how we are developing our players for the international scene, and that is one of the major goals of our national championships, is getting players ready for that international play. Although there are several other goals that we also need to meet and keep in mind. When that report is finished, there were 10 principles that we tried to meet, and hopefully all of you will be able to read that shortly. It's a pretty long document, like 44 pages or something like that, but it's a wealth of knowledge.
Jake Schuchting, our fountain of knowledge at BCB.
Well, I'm glad that Shane's looking forward to 3-bowl pairs, as am I. I find that to be a much better game.
I enjoy it quite a bit. We play it in and around Ontario a little bit. Our OPL, Ontario Premier League, which we play a little bit in mostly Western Ontario, features singles, 3-bowl pairs, and 2-bowl triples, and it makes for quite an exciting match and play.
I've really enjoyed 2-bowl triples and 3-bowl pairs.
John's about to slam this head, as you can see from his wind-up.
Yeah, here we go. He's letting it loose. Just missed.
And it almost came all the way back to Kerry.
Yeah, with 3-bowl pairs and 2-bowl triples, having less bowls, it really requires more skill because you don't have as many options to adjust, and I think that is a huge bonus to be playing that at the national level, to force our players to play with more skill rather than give them tons and tons of opportunity to adjust and possibly get lucky, get a wick, make something with their last bowl. But in my opinion, and this is just strictly me, this isn't a Bowls Canada opinion, just me, the less bowls you have, the more skills required. Well, he found the pile, but didn't make much of a difference there, as BC is still holding. There's also a pretty big change for the youth championships with regards to age. We're going to be implementing a minimum age requirement. You have to be at least 12 to compete. Part of the rationale for that is it doesn't do well to have a 18-year-old playing against an 8-year-old, because 9 times out of 10, the 18-year-old is much more developed, whether emotionally, physically, intellectually, and that's just not a fair fight from the get-go. There are exceptions to that, but they're exceptions, not the norm. And so to try to make it more developmentally friendly for our younger athletes, for the under 18s, if we're saying you have to be between 12 and 17, that really levels the playing field a little and makes it more developmentally appropriate for athletes in that age range. It's our hope that eventually we can have more age ranges, so potentially athletes who are between 8 and 12 and then 13 to 17 and so forth, which would be great, but unfortunately at the moment we just don't have enough youth athletes to support that.
John's decided to throw a little controlled weight, but it's just going to cut right across the head. Currently it looks like BC's only 3, possibly 3.
Ralph Ellis is saying we'll miss the aggressive cowboy game of 3-bowl triples. 2-bowl triples will require better focus, though. Yeah, on a personal note, I absolutely despise 3-bowl triples just because it's so many bowls, 9 bowls each team. By the time the skip's getting down to the last bowl, you can just fire into the head and you're guaranteed to hit something. Way too many bowls out there in front.
Looks like currently BC's holding 3. Could be a measure, but
yeah.
We'll see what Keenan has here to look to claw a little bit closer in this game. Currently 8-1.
He's coming up well short on this. Is he looking to play a guard there just to try to protect it?
Yeah, possibly. He's waving it over, hoping to get in front.
John's toned things down here.
Still being a little aggressive. He wasn't shy away from that.
Well,
yeah, taking one out.
Took one out for sure. One BC for sure. Mike's gonna get down and measure. One thing to keep in mind with the changes to the championships for next year is that they are going to be monitored to see what works and what doesn't. So there are very likely going to be some hiccups and some things that don't go exactly as planned. And so changes can be made for 2019 and beyond. So just sort of keep in mind that this isn't the be-all, end-all for the next 1,000 years. Some things can and very likely will end up being changed after next year is done. That was 2 for BC, if I believe.
Yep, 2 for BC.
8-3. Just to touch on the why briefly, every sport in Canada either already has or will very shortly be going through a similar competition review process that we've done. It took us the better part of 2 years, maybe even 3, to do this. But every sport in Canada either has or will be very shortly doing it, and it's a good practice to be in to review your competitions to make sure they're meeting their goals. There's a long spiel that could go off into why and how this started back in the 2000s and whatnot, but a big focus from the government of Canada, and that's where a lot of sports get major parts of their funding through Sport Canada, is to make sure that each national sport organization is being developmentally appropriate for their athletes and allowing our athletes to develop into the best they can be and getting participation rates up and international gold medal potential performers. So in order to do all that, we need to make sure that our competitions are actually allowing our athletes to develop at the appropriate stages and that they're actually meeting their goals. And even if it wasn't a requirement, it's still a good practice to get into, to review your competitions every now and then, just to make sure they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. One of my favorite questions that I used to ask a lot of athletes was, prior to this year, what's the point of the mixed pairs? Could you tell me who should be there or what purpose it was serving, what demographic we were trying to get there? Same with the nationals at this event. Who should be here? What's the point of it? And depending on who you ask, you'd get different answers. But after doing this competition review, I can now strongly say we have a clear answer for all of our national championships, what the purpose is, who should actually be there, what demographic we're trying to reach. And just having that answer alone is already a huge bonus. But if you do have any more questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to send me an email, write us a long-winded letter. I can't guarantee that we'll be in the office for a phone call, but if you guys are at the right time, we will be, as I'm here for the rest of this week, and then I'll be out in Winnipeg streaming the singles later this year as well, so you have to pick your dates wisely, but we do want to be as open about this as possible and communicate with you as directly and efficiently as possible, so if you do have some comments or concerns, feel free to get in touch with us. Send us an email or a message on Facebook, Twitter. Great shot there from Mikey.
So if you want a less brief information session from Jake, he'll be happy to extend his current description of all this.
Yeah.
To longer format.
I think there might be a summary of all the changes kicking around somewhere on our website if you look under news archives. But we released that back at the start of the year, somewhere in April, so I'm not sure where it is there now. I think it's in the news archives somewhere. Cam, my friends, just sent me a message on Facebook with a thumbs down to mixed pairs. Guess he's not a fan.
Yeah, he just has no friends. Forever alone, Cam.
It's been 3 ends. We should be good. Yeah, sorry for the incessant babbling about that. I was asked for a short explanation, and that took me 3 ends to get through.
Well, as many of you may not know, Jake's been neck deep in most of this stuff for quite a long time. So he's been working on changes, discussions, little groups of discussions over different types of changes, and working on the final documentation. So obviously he wants to make sure it's explained well, people have the answers that they need, and if you do have questions, reach out to any of the Bowls Canada people, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer your questions if there's anything specific that you need from them. So I'm just slipping through the head here. I think he was trying to play Kerry's bowl off, bring Mike's 2 side bowls into the play. I'm trying to get another bowl in the head. Just gonna come up.
Forever alone. Cam LaFrenz.
Love you, Cam.
For those who don't know, Cam is fresh off his under 25 gold medal performance at the Canadian U25s in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He'll be off to the World Youth Championships in February, representing Canada.
Kerry asking Keenan to actually come up the forehand side instead of the backhand. John kind of dropped in front. Keenan coming up to take a look at the head, but as you can see on the right hand side of your screen there, John's got a blue bowl just sitting outside, which may disrupt that really tight draw that comes in there. So Kerry's asking Keenan to come the other side and just draw right next to Michael's bowl.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that discussion went, and if Keenan's going to listen. You never know. Looks like it. Almost had it on the right side to push that in.
Almost. John Seitman doesn't like the changes to the mixed pairs, as it kind of excludes him and his mom from the event since they play in the juniors or majors. Well, that's kind of the point. If you're competing in some of these excellent stream-tiered events, you're on the path to excellence, whereas the mixed pairs is targeted towards more of the less experienced crowd. in a sense. Mixed pairs is everybody's favorite event. That's hands down our most popular event, and we actually toyed around with the idea of making that a mixed fours or running a second mixed pairs event just because we never lack for entries for it. It's always full. Everybody loves it. And that might eventually happen someday. I wouldn't be surprised if we expanded that.
As a bowler, John, I can tell you that being in on some of the ideas around the mixed pairs, I love mixed pairs. I have a great partner back in my province that we play together quite a bit. We're actually going to the championships in Point Claire this year together, coming out of Ontario. But these changes will exclude me if I want to go to the Canadians and play in that. Those changes will exclude me as well, but I'm okay with that. I know what the mixed pairs is about. I think that it's a great developmental path to get that first taste of higher competition, the Canadian level competition.
Great shot there from Kerry. What a beaut.
And I understand that, if I wanna play against the best and I want to be considered for national level type of player and capable of playing internationally, it's the Canadians where I want to be, not necessarily the mixed pairs, and I'm okay with letting that kind of get away from me if I'm competing in the Canadian Championship. So you just have to keep it in perspective. It's not always going to be favorable to every single player that's out there, but I'm trying to make changes that are going to favor the majority, help our development, help all players in Canada, and not just the few that currently play in all events that are available.
Mm-hmm. That is one of the biggest concerns we've got from bowlers across the country is why on earth would I enter mixed pairs or senior triples when the guys or girls who just won the majors are going to be there? I'm going to get my clock cleaned. And that's a valid question. If you're not necessarily as experienced or not as competitive or just, not on the same level, what have you, why would you enter that event when you know that the champions are going to be there? Unless you're on that same level, which not everybody is, it's just not developmentally friendly. It discourages participation from potentially new people coming up and trying it. Ralph Ellis is asking, what's the green speed today? Any idea on that?
That's a good question, Ralph. Let's see if we can time some of these. And we'll give you an idea.
I feel like it's maybe close to 12 seconds. Maybe 11 or 12, somewhere in there. I'm not sure. Cam saying, move to Nova Scotia, Daryl. We'll team up for Canadians.
Alright. You got it, Cam.
First, you got to pick up Braden Campbell, though, Cam. And Liam. Those guys are primed. So now that we're into the, what?
I messed up the transition, so don't worry about me. I'll figure it out.
Seventh end here. We're looking at an 8-4 game with Kerry Mans just all over it, playing stellar. Keenan's out and around.
Michael Patuli's got two very, very close, so I think John's just looking to nudge this out of the way and roll in.
We're having a nice little chat here on Facebook with Cam. Cam LaFrenz won the men's under 25s and Kara Webster won the women's under 25. MVP Sports, Dan Milligan, has generously donated some goodies for them to raffle off. I believe first prize is a set of bowls. There's also a bowls bag, a newbie launcher, a bunch of other MVP goodies in there. So if you can, help support those 2 on their way to Australia. They're selling raffle tickets for $5 each. Get in touch with Kamla Friends or Kara Webster. They're looking to raise a few dollars to help cover the cost to Australia to compete in the World Youth Championships in February 2018. Big thanks to Dan for donating those prizes. Good luck, Cam and Kara. If you ever run out of tickets, let me know. We can print off more for you.
Looks like Keenan wants to come up and discuss the head a little bit. What's going to happen, what's going to be pushed. Kerry wants to give him a little advice on what he thinks he should play.
Cam's saying it's on his Facebook, so if you have Kamla Friends on Facebook, you can see a picture of the tickets and wire him some money. Might need to do that. I think I'm due for a new set of bowls. I've had my teal Spectrums for quite some time.
Considering that they don't produce Spectrums anymore, it might be, right? You're going to be antique soon. You might need to hold on to them to increase their value.
Keenan's just around. Well, when I was playing at WOBA this year, I was using Brian Fowler's bowls, and they were red Spectrums. They were fun to play with. And John's winding up here for a drive. We'll see if he can make some contact. And he does. And somehow the jack didn't move. That's impressive.
Could be 2 down.
Could be 2 down, but
definitely a 1 with carries in the back there.
Open it up now that he can draw that off. He's got a foot or so.
And Kerry's looking at, if we can do some bad lippering here. You know, if you take that green bowl out, you might be sitting 6.
I
think that's what Keenan's looking at right now. How do I get down to that? But it's
how do I get to it?
It's a tough shot.
Is the question.
Yeah. Any movement on that jack over to the side can benefit BC.
And it was very, very slight. I only just caught it, but Mike Petulli was shaking his head after that ball, just very slightly. Not giving off too much emotion. You had to really be looking for it, but I think they were looking for a better result than that. That didn't exactly pan out as well as it could have. I'm sure they would have been quite happy with the dead end.
He's looking at this. Is he going to actually get the green?
He's close. Just through the port.
Just sliding by. Getting the finger test. Let's see what's going on.
See if John can play a draw after that drive. That's always a tricky thing to do.
It's just going to fly by a little wide. One on the look for BC.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Ralph. Ralph's saying that the difference between the Canadians now versus 30 years ago is that smaller provinces are more competitive rather than easy games. This has usually come about by younger players making their way through the smaller provinces. Sask pairs teams as an example, as is Cam from Nova Scotia. Yeah, I'd say that every province here is relatively competitive. I wouldn't say anybody is a absolute easy gimme game. I can't speak to what it was 30 years ago, as I wasn't born yet.
And thanks for that reminder, Jake.
You're welcome. Anybody over 30 out there? Hope I'm making you feel nice and old. Just kidding.
Send all your hate mail to Jake Shuknik at bullscanada.com.
jshuknik at bullscanada.com. I'm ready to receive all the hate mail I can get.
Yeah.
Boo me off the mic if you want.
Well, we actually see the same thing within Ontario. Ontario is divided into 16 districts right across the east to west and north to south. Different levels of play, different volumes of members across those provinces, or across those districts. And year over year, you see changes in the strength of different districts. It might be 10 years ago, District 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were absolutely deadly. You never wanted to draw them because you knew that they had some of the best players out there. And then you go 10 years down the road, and now you've got District 8, 9, 10, 11 that are suddenly coming up the ranks and being super strong. So every province is like a little microcosm of Canada. You see the smaller areas grow and some larger areas shrink, and vice versa. That's just kind of how it goes sometimes, decade over decade.
I'm really hoping that we'll see some increases in numbers across the country here after we release those promotional videos. I'm really hoping that sparked a bit of a boost, as we're always looking to get more members right across the country. I heard that Nova Scotia might have seen an increase in almost all of their clubs out there this year, which is great to hear if that is in fact the case. So fingers crossed that right across the board we'll see lots of new growth.
That'd be fantastic to see. That grassroots level where members are coming in, playing club games, jitneys, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, some of those, a small percentage of them will filter up into the competitive scene, and you'll see them doing that. Carry with a nice weighted bowl through the center to get BC the shot.
Luke Caldwell is chiming in on Twitter, replying to one of the questions asked earlier. I think you asked it, would you rather have a wide bowl or a narrow bowl, and why? And this is a really good quote here. Lignoid 100%. Straight bowls win games, wide bowls win championships.
There you go. Young Luke dropping some knowledge on social media.
Yeah, I got a question here. What's the score on the rink next door? Unfortunately, the way the table's set up right now, we are parallel with all of the scoreboards. I just had to get up and move this one so I could see it a little better. I thought I could see it before, but turns out I couldn't. So I can't see any scoreboards on this deck except for the one in front of us. My apologies on that. I can tell a few scoreboards on deck D, which immediately behind us there. Looks like a very colorful deck, lots of colored bowls. Shout out to Ben Fowler, just turned 10 today. Happy birthday, Ben. I think I'm all out of words. Talk so much that can't talk anymore.
You know, so you'll hear people shouting up and down the rink in these cases on this deck, and this game's been pretty silent.
Mm-hmm.
A few hand gestures here and there, a few discussions midway up the rink, but nothing too loud. These are quiet players, despite Kerry's loud shoes.
Well played there. Ralph Ellis is saying, tell players to spend $5 on the Bowls Canada Shot Spotter rather than using crossed fingers to do sight measures. It's a great item. For those of you who don't know, we sell a little device called a Shot Spotter. It's a small piece of, I don't know if it's plexiglass or what type of plastic it is, but it has a whole bunch of lines and circles on it, so when you pull it out of your pocket and hold it about waist high and put it over the jack, you can tell which bowls are shot and which aren't based on the lines on this little piece of plastic. If you look at it in a certain way, it almost kind of looks like rings, sort of like if you were watching curling and you see the curling rings there, you can really tell what's biting the line and what's not. So it's a neat little device that you can just carry in your pocket and then pull it out, hold it over top at about waist high level and look down, and you can tell pretty quickly who's shot and who's not based on if the bowl's touching the lines or not. I didn't think we would need that many here this week, but we sold out within the first 5 minutes of getting here for what we brought with us. I think I brought maybe 10 or so and sold them all in about 5 minutes. But we do have more back in the office, so send us an email if you'd like to buy one. Not sure the price on that. Ralph's quoting 5. I think it might be 7 or 10. Can't remember.
John was just looking to play that back bowl out a bit to maybe pick up 2 or 3.
Didn't quite get there.
Not quite.
So they kicked out one blue right away.
Two for Saskatchewan.
Camera just shook a little bit and there's nobody up there. Now it's really weird. Must have been a gust of wind or something. George Boxwell's online here, asking if Anna Mies is at the championships. If so, we should interview her. The bowlers want to hear from her. She is, in fact, here. She's under the tent selling all the Bowls Canada merchandise, which we have plenty of, and talking to all the volunteers and spectators and really anybody who wants to go and have a chat. I actually asked her if she wanted to commentate with me, and she declined based on the fact that she could bore everyone to death with political knowledge about, the inner goings-on of Bowls Canada and policies and those kind of rules. But since she doesn't have the Bowls background that Daryl and I have, she hasn't been playing since 8 years old like some of us have, she thought that it'd be better if I found someone with a Bowls background to commentate, so that way we can actually tell you what's a good shot, what's not, and some of the strategy that they might be thinking. And I'd have to agree with her on that it's probably better to have Bowls-specific knowledge as a commentator rather than organizational knowledge. But by all means, if you want to get in touch with Anna Mies, send her an email, give her a phone call. If you're in the area, come on down to the Wanda Fuca Lawn Bowling Club and have a chat with her.
You're killing me, George. You know that I'm extremely funny and intelligent and witty.
Well, for all I know, he might be saying get me off the stream here too, because I've been commentating for the past all week in the juniors, so I mean, if you're not sick of my voice yet, you should be by now.
Carry with a nice draw there. Nice shot.
Prove me wrong, Ralph Ellis. Apparently we do sell the shot spotters for $5 plus shipping. Very reasonable. Often sells online for 15 plus, so I guess we're giving you a good deal for those shot spotters. Oh, great shot there from Mike in response.
Leads trading shots here.
Well, this is shaping up to be a very good head here before Gary's bowl comes down, and that's not a terrible shot either.
No, it's just sliding by that shot ball.
That is quite the pocket there. Well, apparently Cam loves our voices, so we'll serenade you to sleep there, Cam.
That bag of Twizzlers I used to bribe Cam and that bottle of Coke is definitely paying off now.
This is some excellent bowling here from the Leeds. They're just finding the lines right to that pocket. Carey's
just getting through that port.
just inside.
Michael improving the head here, but he may have just filled that gap that Carey was flowing through.
Mm-hmm. Very consistent bowling from these guys. They're not changing their shot by much, although Carey's up to some weight here.
Yeah, so
Just pushed his
just
ball
floated
through.
out. If he had probably played the same shot, he might have actually landed on the shot pole.
Mm-hmm. Jurgen's watching rank number 2 and said that Steve McCarahan's back to his black bowls. Do you know what kind of bowls Steve was using if they weren't black? I think I've only ever seen him with black bowls.
No, he's been known to pull out a red set of aces, I believe.
Yes.
Speckled.
Yes, I do remember those actually.
Yeah, but I think he's been leaning towards a little swingier bowl, and he's been playing them very well. So,
If you don't know of the McCarahan family, they've got, I think, over 30 sets of bowls between all of them. They are a very, very good bowling family. Cam just says, I'm just looking to not be alone forever. Twizzlers and pop. As long as it's not Dr. Pepper.
you might not be able to see it in the camera. You can see some in the background, but our greens are filling up with spectators for every game. Different provinces cheering on different provinces. It's really great to see these the spectators roll in and start watching the games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great shot here from Keenan.
Great rub off of John's front bowl.
What a beaut. Big thanks to our partners and sponsors, the Government of Canada through Sport Canada, Coaching Association of Canada, Kukri, our official clothing supplier, and lawnbowlingmanager.com. If you don't know what lawnbowlingmanager.com is all about, I strongly recommend heading over to that website and asking for a free demo. Bona Lee is more than happy to show you what it's all about. It's a great website, club database, league night, tournament listing, player list. It's one-stop shop to keep your club all managed efficiently.
Oh. Keon's going to come up and take a look. He's like, I just drew shot.
Mm-hmm.
John through the head. Possibly trying to either push that bull out, pushes one up, get that jack back to some of Michael's back bowls there. So now Keno wants to know, what do I do to prepare for the next shot? Yeah, what a lot of bowlers might not know is the ball that's in your hand doesn't necessarily have to be shot when you release it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just anticipating and counteracting what your opposition may do in their next bowl, either to gain shot or prevent them from making a shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about strategy and tactics, and how do you play this head correctly to make it more difficult for your opponent to get shot and much easier for you to get shot. So now John's coming up to take a look at the head, because no, it might not be as easy for him to push that blue ball up, and obviously that side hangs a little bit.
Ralph Ellis says that at James Gardens, where the carpet's 15 to 16 seconds all day, every day, Steve McCarahan uses moderate narrow bowls. On slower greens, he goes back to the standard wide drawing bowls, which makes sense. And for anybody who's listening and wants to get in touch with us, ask us a question, leave us a comment, reach out to us on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, we're at BCB Bowls. Facebook at BCB Official. Look up Bowls Canada Bowling in the search bar for Facebook, and I'm sure we'll come up eventually. I think John's just playing a tap here.
He's probably just looking to what he can do to move that dark blue bowl and get that jack to move a little bit, because it's going to be too tough to play. So yeah, he's playing a little weight. Just wants to get some movement.
Oh,
almost.
If he would have got by that, he would have been fine. So Keenan's line 1 here. I would assume he's just going to look to draw for 2.
Yeah, I don't think you want to play anything crazy. You got 2 Saskatchewan Bulls, well, 3 Saskatchewan Bulls right behind. You'd have to get it fairly deep for Kerry's Bulls to count at the back there.
Yeah, and
that's not advisable.
No, not advisable at all. That's pretty risky.
Just going to come up late on this one. Take the 1 and run.
Take the 1 and run. BC is getting back in this game here. 10-8.
Yeah. All players are starting to figure out some lines on this green and playing some good shots. Early on, it was a little shaky when you finally realize that one side's going to hang out a little bit more than you thought, or one side's going to cut when you try to cheat a little bit. Once you get through those shocks, then hopefully you settle down and start playing some really keen bowls.
Some more on Ontario comments. Fred Wallbank on the Ontario team next door. Apparently he's always been in love with his ancient wide bowls and can only rarely be made to switch. And now that I think about it, I don't know if I've ever seen Fred use a bowl besides what he has in his hand right now.
I don't remember any time where I've seen him play with a different set, but I'd be shocked.
Stick to the old faithful.
Yep. He plays them very, very well.
Back to the game in front of us, though. Those are relatively newish bowls for Mike. Probably had them for a couple of years, 2, 3 or so. So I guess not that new, but growing up playing against him a lot, he definitely didn't have them back in the day. But those are Kerry Mann's traditional go-tos. I remember seeing those a few years back at the NAC.
Yeah. Paint's still barely holding on to those rings, I think. So.
Yeah, just barely there.
Michael with a great adjustment after he threw one really, really narrow. Bang, right on the jack.
John Tuffer's asking if we could give the update on green 2. Unfortunately, I can't really see that well. I could hop up and go over there if you want. I'll take a look. Not going to be very frequent, though, as I can't see it from where we're sitting.
Alright, Michael Petulli trying to add to his perfectly drawn bowl. Just going to catch. Oh, just got inside Kerry's front bowl there. Almost looks like he was going to catch it flush. But really, really narrow on that.
It is 6-4 for Greg Wilson and the Alberta pairs over Ontario B.
Just drawn half a foot short of Michael's bowl, a little wide. Michael chasing this bowl down and likes it quite a lot. Just dropping short. Excellent line.
So probably still just 1 there for Saskatchewan.
So it looks like right now. It looks like Kerry's side bowl is number 2.
I do like the uniforms both of these teams are wearing here. BC and Saskatchewan have very nice shirts.
They do, yeah. Both of them had uniform updates in the last handful of years. Saskatchewan obviously this year, and BC a few years ago. Same with Alberta. If you see Greg Wilson and Derek Dillon on the other rink.
That's definitely
Just an unfortunate hit there.
Not what Keenan was looking to do. And if you're curious how everybody's been playing, head over to bowlscanada.com. Under the Championship tab, you'll find Canadian Championships, and you can scroll down and find the standings, results, draw, etc. Cool little function is if you go to the standings page and you're interested in a certain team, you can click the team and a new window will pop up with all the games they've played, so you can see specifically who that team has played and won or lost to. Or tied, I guess.
Well, John just punched in for a third shot there. Got it surrounded. We'll see what Keenan can answer with here. Doesn't seem to like it too much. It's not probably going to come back from that there.
Oh, didn't hear the score. My bad. So it was 6-4 for Alberta over Ontario on the rink next door. Hope you can hear me now.
John with another excellent bowl, making the edge tighter. I think Kerry's asking Keenan to take a rip at it. Keenan playing another wide bowl, heavy. He's just gonna fly right by. See what John has in store to make this end better for himself. He got some decent position. He may play to the back where Kerry's currently sitting 2, kind of looks like. Or he may just add to the head. Depends if he's scared that Keenan's actually going to blow that apart or not. Looks like John's trying to just reach.
Just getting some position back there. Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah, he just wanted to beat that black, I think. A little bit of trivia question here for you. George Boxwell's telling me that repeating as the men's pairs champ has been done at least 3 times before, with Ray Riedel and Joe Dorsch from Kitchener-Waterloo doing it, Ryan and Bob Bester from Hanover doing it, and Steve Ogden and Steve Pazanson. So it's a hard task for the Petulis here to replicate. So they won the pairs last year and are looking to defend the title again this year. John and anybody else out there, see if you can update me. Has it been done more than 3 times? Put your research skills to the test.
Keenan just trying to come in here, and he's just going to slide by.
Big opportunity here for John with his last bowl.
To draw in for possible 5.
This could really start to be a turning point here in the game as it's halfway done. He's walking down after it, but he's not chasing it, so I don't think he likes it.
Yeah.
Crashed in front.
No harm done. Gonna measure for the 4th.
Good question here from Ralph Ellis. Only knows Keenan Lau by name, but hasn't seen him play before, unlike Kerry or the Sask Boys. What's your competitive assessment of him? I think he's a very steady, controlled type of player, as we haven't really seen him wind up and let loose on wicked drives or anything like that. So I think he's a very steady draw overdraw type player based off what we've seen so far. That's only halfway through the game, as I've never seen him play either. That could easily change. The second half he might just start firing for all I know, but based off this first half, I would say he's very controlled.
Yeah, I'd probably second that assessment. Draw a bowler first. Would rather play just slightly overweight to nudge and stuff rather than actually full out rip at it. I did actually play him in the triples in Willowdale, and he was actually playing, I can't remember if he was playing vice or lead, but he was a very, very consistent draw bowler, playing very well, especially on carpet, which was at Willowdale and is a little tricky there in Toronto. But I never saw him play overly aggressive, so I wouldn't expect to see it here. Whereas if Carey was skipping, I could easily see him, tear a strip out of this green and try to blow something apart.
Yeah, I've seen Carey let loose many, many times. He likes to play aggressively. Glad you're enjoying it. Nita Clark's loving the live streaming. Great job from Maple Ridge, BC. Glad to have you with us. Nice to see that there's some local support in the province.
Yeah, if you're out there and you're listening, drop us a message. Let us know you're out there. Let us talk to you, ask questions.
I'm loving the feedback we've been having here so far today. Makes it much more enjoyable for hopefully us and you, as we can get into some discussions rather than just babble between us about what our favorite bowl is. Not that that's a bad discussion. Favorite bowl is a spectrum, personally.
Jake and I talk every day, so
Yeah.
We want to hear from other people.
Absolutely.
From time to time.
Absolutely. It's the first time I've heard John say anything all game. Good line, all on your weight. Well done. Carey's kicked the hat. He was wearing a cap before, and
Well, he did borrow some sunscreen and he sprayed the top of his head, so I'm sure he's protected.
well, prior to the start of this game, the top of his head matched the color of his shoes. Only going to get worse from there, I'm afraid. I'll do my best to hop over and check out the scoreboard every few ends. I'm definitely not going to be doing it often, as I can't see it from the booth here, so I have to actually get up and walk around to find it. But every 3-4 ends, give me a nice little reminder to get up and check out the score, as I can tell some of you are probably watching that game next door as well. And John just chipped the jack. He's still lying 1.
Yeah, it's a little more open for Keon to draw in there.
George Boxwell just said that looks like Carey's picking up some solar energy.
Got to recharge.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that's why he hasn't thrown any drives yet,
Some of you may or may not know George Boxwell. He's living out here in BC, but used to live in my hometown of Kitchener, Waterloo, KW, but Kitchener specifically, Ontario. Was a bit of a legend in those parts for his 5-pin bowling exploits. He was known to have gone to one of our bowling alleys, and I believe it was Kitchener first, playing an afternoon game, get a perfect game, and then show up in Waterloo in the evening and bowl another perfect game, which is usually unheard of.
I've definitely never heard of anybody else ever doing that, of playing a perfect game for alley bowling, which is all strikes for an entire game.
That's right. And I used to 5-pin around there. Some of the alleys have been torn down just to decline in popularity in the area, but I remember seeing there was a plaque in one of the alleys for sure, indicating the perfect game.
John is looking to push Keenan through or grab the white, and he's just inside. I suspect he won't be changing much with his next bowl, as if he can get that trail, that could be potentially 5 for Saskatchewan. So if I'm Keenan right now, I'm probably looking to get a back bowl, I would think. Just heard Carey say that one won't come back. Doesn't have the legs to come back in any event, but even if it did, I think it probably would have fought that line the whole way down.
Might be even out of bounds.
It could be. That's probably pretty close. I think John's walking right down to the marker to take a look. It's in. That might be... No, it's probably not in anybody's way. I was going to say Keenan might use it for a rub to get a back bowl later, but I doubt it.
Stranger things have happened. So.
John up to the weight, and that's probably almost the exact same line as what his last bowl was, just much more weight.
Hey, if he was able to scoot that jack back, that could have been a possible 5, because he's got 4 bowls tucked behind those black ones in front. So I think all Keon's looking to do is just to play up to his own shot. I don't know if Kerry's looking for anything fancier than that in their discussion, but let's see it, come and take a look.
Ralph is sending me a message here saying that in Ontario they're visiting clubs directly to help them drive up membership growth. They visited 23 out of Ontario's 120 clubs. So they're going to track and see how those clubs did versus other clubs in Ontario to see if it actually made a difference and if it's working. On paper, that sounds like a good idea to help clubs with membership efforts and recruitment and whatnot. If you're interested to find out what Ralph and his crew are doing, then head on over to the OLBA page. I'll leave that up to you as to whether you want to get their insights or not. I know at Bowls Canada we have that new Bowler's Handbook that we're looking at updating pretty much every year, I believe, which is a useful little booklet to give to new bowlers, teach them the basics of bowls. I believe he's out for $3.50 unless you buy 51 or more, in which case it drops to $3.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Kerry's asking Keenan to actually play John's closest bowl out to allow a possible few extra shots because the bowls are so spread around.
I just got last bowl.
Yeah, so what they were looking at was if they could get John's bowl out, they may have picked up 2 extra shots on that. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. But as it lies, they'll just take the 1.
So on that discussion of what Ralph was talking about with OLBA, having a little program of, I know Ralph's been out at many clubs helping them with membership ideas. You can never have too many ideas. Some of them won't work for everybody, but the more ideas you have, the more stuff you try, at least you can find the stuff that works and keep doing it. I know one of the programs that he took to my home club has actually worked out quite well. It's we've invited a number of curlers to the club to join without actually buying a membership specifically, but paying X amount of dollars for a league, and we run a league for a number of weeks. All new bowlers. There's no club members or experienced bowlers allowed. So they get to compete against each other, learn the game with each other, see the team game with each other, and it's actually turned out quite well. I believe we've at least got at least 5 members, if not more, from that league, and we just keep pulling in more as they think about it and decide to join.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we keep on to those and just keep building from there.
One thing that you need to keep in mind, a lot of times things might not work out the very first time you try it. I've seen so many clubs try something once and then give up on it, but depending on the idea, obviously, it's always, some things might actually just be a bad idea altogether, but some things might take more than a year before you actually start to see the results of it. So just keep that in mind, some of your recruitment ideas, if you're starting something new on a Wednesday night. Well, some people might not have had Wednesday nights off, and so they have to wait till next year before they can get it off, and then if you stop running that, whatever that is, a jitney or a league or whatever, then gotta give it some time to actually see the benefits from it.
Drawn in shot here. Still a little loose.
Was it Pat Bird I think we were talking to yesterday, and he said at the NAC here in 2012, some of the players, can't remember who he mentioned, might have been the Stadniks, when the jack was on the tee, they would just draw a meter short, because if you try to draw the jack, it was all downhill and would just trickle into the ditch when the greens were fast. So they would just draw short and then pound their bowls in, and they were just crushing teams that way. And so now with the jack on the tee here, and you can see there's a fair bit of brown patch back there, Several of the lead's bowls have already gone into the ditch. Wonder if the same strategy might be needed here to sort of draw a little bit short and then just work them in.
Yeah, it depends if the so back 2 meters of that of this rink is actually playable. Whether it's burnt out, sloping, who knows. Can often make it difficult to keep your bowls on the green if you actually get past a certain point. But Keenan's just looking to draw here.
The way he stands on the mat and gets ready, I always feel like he's about to throw a drive. Like he's on his tiptoes and he's leaning forward and just ready to go, and then it just comes out as a draw, and he's coming up short there. But I'm almost expecting him to let loose. See if John can draw in close without being shorter in the ditch, as it appears to be in a very tricky spot, this jack, right now.
He's not short. See if he's not quite in the ditch.
Just sticking around. I don't see
Hanging
Carey
around
ducking
in
down and then pick it up. Yeah,
Carey's
just.
shadow.
Just.
Yeah, I'm playing quick. I don't think he's coming back, and he's coming up
Coming up a bit short.
identical weight to his last ball.
So John will be looking to take off 4 or 5 feet off his last. And he took off much more than that.
He seems to be in a tricky spot.
Yeah, based on the brown patches at the back there, it's very tricky to adjust your weight. Don't need to change it much, and it could be 6 feet through or 6 feet short.
Again, still not adding enough to get there.
And that's a pretty good shot there to try to bring it in. Just needed a few more rolls on that. That'll be in the count.
Probably in the back of Keon's mind now is I must reach the head. Give my bowl a chance to be shot or make a difference. Looks like he definitely gave it a little extra push in his delivery, but is he going to crash on the stuff in front? Oh
Wick
my
here,
goodness.
wick there, and onto the jack.
Shot drawn. It's a little pool action. One after the other after the other. That's definitely unintended.
Winner, Gagnon.
Carey's got a little smile going on down there. Like, I guess that's all you need to draw the jack.
We were talking about this earlier in the week, about the different customs from different nations. Apparently in Ireland, if you get wicks, it's expected that you apologize for it and say, sorry about that. It was a lucky shot. Not so here, necessarily.
It's one for BCI.
Ranks at 14-10. Twelve ends in the book, so 6 ends to go. 4-point game. I wouldn't say that one team is really dominating the other yet.
This has been proven to be a very tricky rank for any team that comes on here. There's been some good teams, good players playing on here that have struggled to find the road to success and be very, very consistent. So we'll see if Carey can open up with a quality bowl here.
Well, he's back to wearing the cap again.
Great line, just sailing through.
Yeah, Ralph's talking about percentages here. All the draws were clogged, so Keenon played his best option. Percentage shot is definitely something that they try to teach you at a young age. At least I found. Always play the percentage shot. But I found in my experience that sometimes confidence is going to outweigh the percentage shot. Not always, but sometimes. Whatever you feel more confident in playing, if you absolutely have no confidence in playing, the ditch hand side because it backs up, I'm sure the percentage shot might be there, but if you have no confidence in it, then it doesn't matter. That percentage is now down to 0 because you don't have any confidence in it. So it's really the great players that can have confidence in any shot, no matter how their bowl is reacting or what the rink looks like or anything like that.
Just catching the outside of that ball.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was hoping to hit it flush or on the inside to roll in.
That's interesting. John was asking Mike to play the other hand, and Mike's like, what? Why? Why on earth would I switch hands right now?
I definitely agree with Michael on that one. This rink is not being the most favorable, so if you're actually having success on the hand, stick with it. And I think Mike won out in that regard.
Yep. And that's forced carry onto his forehand, I think. Yep. I know Carey was lining up the backhand at first, but decided to change.
It's got pretty good weight here.
Oh, that's a pretty good shot. Beautiful ball there from Carey.
Yep.
John told Mike to follow it down, but I think he's still playing his backhand. But again, I can't say I blame him. That Mike's backhand here is a much better hand to play from what we've seen all week, and Mike's been playing it pretty well here based off these first 3 bowls. That one's a little heavy, but he's coming back to the center line. He's figured out the line.
I think he wanted to be through the head just to either push his own bowl on the carries. If he got the inside, he could catch the jack.
Mm-hmm.
And slipping behind isn't going to hurt him at all. So.
Mm-hmm.
And now John can play the other hand if he wants.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I know some skips do actually call their front end to play a certain hand, and only that hand, so that way the opposite hand is still open for them when they get to the mat. Usually only happens when your front end is coming up way short all the time and just plugging stuff up, but that hasn't really been the case here.
Generally when I'm skipping, or even if I'm leading, always want the lead or myself to play the better hand, so the hand that's going to give me the most success. If I can find a draw and stick with it, I'll stick with it 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Only rarely switching hands if I absolutely need to make a shot with probably my 4th bowl if I need to, or my last bowl. If I can play that's an unfortunate result there.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate result.
Two. It's not about me making the shot and getting the shot. It's about me setting up the head so that my skip or my vice has an easier time making his shots. So if I can pepper the head with my shots, getting some in behind, some close, swing bowls, whatever it is, and keep the opposition to 1, I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to make any critical shots in that regard. So it's all about playing the best hand and getting bowls in the area to help your skip. Just playing through the head, wanted to split those bowls out.
Mm-hmm. Carey's still trying to get Keenon to get a back bowl in.
Yeah, over here, by my pink shoes.
When we were talking about how Mike was sort of ignoring John and playing the hand he wanted, Ralph said that brothers get extra leeway when you ignore the skip. Being brothers, yeah, I guess I can buy that.
I'm sure it's
He's winding up.
John's going to blast it.
And he got one.
Got one out. Yeah, being brothers, it's probably not the first time or the last time that you'll wave them off.
Yeah, that's true. But one thing that I have noticed so far here is that it doesn't seem as though Mike is really calling any sort of a game for John. John just gets up and does what he wants to do, which has been working out, and they are in first right now as it stands, and they are winning this game, but it almost kind of takes away from the team game aspect if you just sort of don't have any say in what your skip's doing and just does his own thing.
Yeah, it depends on your team dynamic and your strategy and what kind of planning you have. Sometimes not a lot of words are needed to be said. They've been playing with each other and probably against each other for such a long time that they kind of have an idea what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know John is definitely a very, very confident player. He has no problems throwing any shot in the book and being okay with how he plays it. So
you can see he was using his fingers there. I think he was looking to see if his bowl is, I don't even know what that would be, fifth shot, I guess. Because I think if he's looking at playing a drive here, he could potentially take out maybe shot bowl and both of Mike's at the back.
Yeah.
Looking to see if everything clears, what's going to be left.
Yeah. So as you saw, you had a quick discussion with Mike, and Mike probably said yes or no, and away you go.
Yeah.
You can always tell when John's going to throw a drive.
Just through the gap.
Yeah, just missing it.
So that'll be one for BC to make it 14-11.
Yeah, BC's slowly clawing their way back.
Mm-hmm.
The heads haven't been exceptionally good for BC, but they've been able to scrape and claw their way into everyone gaining a shot.
I don't know if you can hear what people are saying through our mics, but I can hear Derek Dillon's calling a shot for Greg there, and Derek's actually from Australia, and I gotta say I do love the Australian accent.
It's got style. Kerry catching that inside line that goes all the way narrow.
Mm-hmm. Mike's looking to one-up him, but I think he's also a little inside. Just a slightly better weight.
The jack high, probably.
Kerry's another one of those players that has the all-arm delivery. They take the step first, and then they backswing and forward.
Okay. Just coming up a little short. Excellent line. Yeah, he's got a very fixed stance. Doesn't have a lot of movement. It's all all arm. He's very smooth, and he's been doing it for a long time, so he's learned to adjust appropriately.
Mm-hmm. You can tell this is a bit of a tricky rink based off of how all of their weight is relatively good, but look at the dispersion of bowls here.
Kerry's definitely not happy with that one. He's just hoping to sneak by. You never want to leave a wide target like that for your opposition. And Michael's just trying to draw around it or through it.
And he's just through it.
Just through it. Yep. Good ball there.
Getting a lot of notifications of people liking all the pictures that we have on Facebook. Sarah Moss, our communications coordinator, has been here all week, and she's been snapping a lot of photos, so check out our albums on our Facebook page. You can catch some of the action.
Kerry playing a little weight. I think Keenan was trying to get him to push one of those black bowls in. Just got one of Michael's and pushed it out. So John's taking a look to see if if they are still actually holding shot. And Mike's gonna look to just draw another one in there.
Could be in the area.
Yeah, he's gonna slide
just onto the square.
Front. Probably one down now.
Not a terrible head, aside from the fact that all the bowls are in front of the jack rather than behind, but at least there are some that are close that are usable.
Absolutely. You might see the umpire walking up green 2 there, doing a jack measure. See if it's long enough. You get the measuring tape out, and they attach the one end to the front of the mat. As you can see, the mat on green 2 is pulled way up. Too short. Derek's comparing to Fred, like, how dare you call that on me?
Keenan's right up into that pack. Behind us we have our president and past president having a good discussion. Ian Tizer is our past president and David Kalem's our current president. Ian Tizer is actually chair of the nominating committee, so if you're thinking of running for the board for Bowls Canada, get in touch with Ian. We're going to have a few vacancies come September, so think about it, see if you want to be on the Bowls Canada Board of Directors. It's a pretty great group of people, and everyone's very respectful and trying to improve the game of bowls in Canada. It's a very functional board.
Resetting on the mat. It's always recommended if you're not quite ready. Back right off. Go through your pre-shot routine again. He's got a very deliberate one.
Yep.
Looks like he might just be drawing on top of Mike's front bowl.
Yeah, right into that front pack.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, John's going to blast that and get rid of that pack. Yeah, cleared things out a little bit, but jack and bull didn't really move a whole lot.
BC still holding 2.
You can certainly see it now. Like, you can see that target. You can blast it again with your next one and either
Probably
kill it.
Measure for 3, actually. Yeah, no, it's still a target.
Hi, Daryl. See you guys again? Yeah.
So, this is Keenan's third bowl. Do you think he's going to be trying to get some coverage here and get a back bowl?
He just wants to be close to the back, but he's getting really wide on that one, then it's just going to sail away. But based on the angle of that jack,
that might be a good spot.
This might be a very good spot for it.
I'm not sure what they're going to do here. If John's going to try to draw another one to cut them down, so it's only 2, maybe even try to cut it down to 1, or if he's going to try to blast that and kill it. He has 2 bowls left, so if you are going to blast, I'd probably do it now.
Yeah. No.
Just because if you draw and then blast, you might just blast up the shot you drew, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty good bowl there.
Yeah.
Second shot.
LBC now has 2 back bowls on that side where the jack is angled, so Keenan should probably just be trying to draw a second bowl in here. Just in case that one does happen to get eliminated cleanly.
I think John could probably just tap that with his last one and have it move just a few inches to his last bolt.
That would work too.
Just looking across this deck here, only one mat is within a mat length of the 2 meter mark. All the other ones that are going in this direction are up a fair bit. Sorry about the pause in commentary there. One of the volunteers came over with some snacks, hors d'oeuvres. They've been doing that all week. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, very close. So that'll be just one for BC. Don't know if I've ever been anywhere at a club where volunteers come out with a platter full of hors d'oeuvres to pass around. They've been doing that every day this week. So big, fantastic hats off thank you to the volunteers out here this week. They've been doing a great job.
Yeah, no, it's been a great program from start to finish here, and I think everybody's enjoyed themselves so far.
So we got 4 ends to go. It's a 2-point game. Before your skip plays, always tell him it is an easy shot, is Ralph's advice.
Well, if I ever play with you, Ralph, I'll know that you're lying to me.
Yep. Yep.
But I'll try to convince myself otherwise.
Really have to know your team before you can really start to communicate with them. I know growing up I used to find it such a piss off when someone said, "Oh, nice try," every time you miss. So you really need to find out what your players like to hear or don't like to hear, just so you're not inadvertently upsetting them.
Oh, just catching the edge.
Very close answer from Kerry.
Got 2 touchers, but still no shot. Can be frustrating.
Mm-hmm. John's asking Mike to hurry. I think he's coming up a yard short. Yeah.
Okay, playing the shot in here. I think it's just hoping to push Mike out of the way.
So in the rink next door, Alberta is up 10-5 over Ontario, playing number 12, and Steve McCarahan's throwing a drive. Don't think he connected on what he wanted to. Lots of back pulls here as Mike has 2 passed and Kerry has 2 passed, so they're setting things up for their skips to try to make a move here.
It's actually quite a good pull there from Kerry. It gives an edge. Yeah, that's what John's looking at. I think he wants to get rid of that edge and end up in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give the opposition any advantages to get to that center.
And Mike just grabbed the jack on his way through. That might make
bad shot, but it's not the greatest shot because it now moves the jack out in the open, so you can actually see it from the mat
and
possibly drag it from the other side.
One thing that I've noticed all week, and I'm glad to see, is a lot of players, when they're using spray chalk, rather than just putting a little dot on, they press and move the spray chalk bottle so you get a bit of a strip on it. A lot of times when I see people using spray chalk and they just squirt once and it's a tiny little speck, if you move the spray marker while you're holding it down, you can hold it down for the same amount of time, so you're not using up any more chalk. But if you make a bit of a streak, then you can actually see that chalk a little bit better, because if it's just one small little speck, then chances are you're either going to miss it, or it could even just rub off or be on the wrong side of the bowl when you're looking at it.
Not a bad bowl here from Keelan. He's just sliding by, but he's in a good position.
Takes a foot off, and that might be in the count. If it'll come back, I'm not sure if it will on that hand with that line. John is also playing his backhand. Looking to get inside. I think he's coming up a little bit short here. Short and well wide.
Alright, Kerry's getting hunkered down, looking for this shot.
Well, this is in fact a pretty big end. Just missed it on his way by. Glenn Taylor's also chiming in, saying use 2 squirts of the chalk. Yeah, but Glenn, then you use the chalk twice as fast that way.
Jake's cheap.
Yep, that's me. Actually, no, you should be using 2 squirts of the chalk. That way you run out faster and you can go and support our vendors and suppliers. I saw that Taylor Sherry Seidel had a booth set up here today. But wherever you get your chalk supplies from, go and support them, help them out.
Playing a little weight, but just coming in narrow. Missing that front bowl.
I saw Glenn Taylor here earlier this week and didn't have a chance to talk to him. I'm not sure if he's still here. I'd be guessing probably not if he's messaging us on Facebook. Glenn, I look forward to seeing you out at the singles in Winnipeg. Should be a good event. That'll be September 4 to 9. I'll be out there to live stream that as well. And it's probably going to be the last event that we stream for the year. I'm not sure if we're going to do the indoor singles or not.
I'm just sailing by in case Keelan gets a little frisky and wants to get the jack all the way back. Because that could have been potential 5 or 6.
Always good to have some protection. We noticed that in the game this morning. Laura kept pointing it out time and time again that Nova Scotia liked to play through the head, and Manitoba was just struggling to get back bowls. And so here and there, Nova Scotia would in fact get the jack and bring it back, or push bowls out or what have you, and there was no back bowls to help Manitoba's cause.
Yeah, you got to sometimes adjust your opposition's play style and make sure that you don't give them that advantage, because yeah, they may miss a few times, but every once in a while they'll catch it and make you pay for it. I'm trying to draw it in there, but didn't quite make it. Looks like 3 down.
This could be a game-changing end here. If Saskatchewan picks up 3, that would make it 17-12. With only 3 to go. John could potentially even draw in for 4. Just a little too far, I think. They've taken out 3.
I think it's all BCs.
And that's it,
there,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Mike's just saying 3. So that makes it 17-12. If Saskatchewan wins this game, if my math is any good, I think they might almost guarantee themselves at least a tiebreaker to get to the gold medal match, because they'd be at 6-1-1. Yeah, I think that's about right. A win here might guarantee at least a tiebreaker to get to the gold for Saskatchewan.
Yeah, this is a match that neither team wants to lose. They want to do as much as they can to guarantee themselves into the medal round.
Actually, I think I can say the same thing for BC. With a win here, they'd have 6 wins. Yeah, I think a win would also guarantee them a tiebreaker at least. If there are any ties, strictly on points, I believe, game points, then we play all the tiebreakers on the greens, unless it's just 2 teams tied for first, in which case both go to the gold medal match and that's it. But any other sort of ties for medal contention, all tiebreakers are played on the greens. So you're not going to lose out on plus minus or head to head or anything like that. So Mike started out this end very hot. That's a pretty good start.
Yeah, he's just looking to improve on this head.
And he's reaching, which is always good.
Yeah. Skip will never complain about a ball like that, especially when you have 2 locked on.
Starting to see maybe some momentum swing here as Saskatchewan can smell the finish line. But Carey is
brilliant ball there.
Coming up strong here. Wow, what a shot. Both are touching, says John. And now Mike's back bowls are looking beautiful. You can play into that with almost any kind of weight and you'll probably have a decent result. And Mike is a little wide again, I think. Yeah.
That helps Carey out. Carey's going to go and take a look. See what's going on. Just because 2 bulls look like they're resting on each other doesn't mean that they're shot. I think we experienced that in the under-25s.
Yep.
Was that Rob Law and Alex LeBlanc?
Yeah, Rob Law and Alex LeBlanc.
Rob was leaning on top of the jack. Alex was standing right beside the jack. They both looked like they were pinching the jack between them. And when the umpire came with their feeler gauge, found that Rob was actually shot. To everybody's surprise.
Yeah. When we talked to the players after the game, they actually said they weren't calling the umpires to measure. They were calling to find out, is it 1 point each or no points each? And the umpires just assumed it was a measure, so they told them to leave the head while they got down and measured. So they measured and declared a shot.
Rob was happy.
Yeah, came away with 1.
You're putting a little energy into this, but it's not going to come back.
Yeah, I don't think he likes that. Over in ring 2 there, Greg just threw a little bit of weight, grabbed the jack on his way to the ditch.
John just trying to make a little nudge on this. See if he can move it around and make his bowls count. playing a little weight. Oh, and he caught the right ball. Squeaking it 2 for 1, maybe 2. Grant Wilkie flying by on the bottom of your screen is playing triples over on green D. I'm playing just a little wide for that shot. Gonna sail on by. Probably best back. They placed a ball, but Michael's still holding the shot. John's taking a good look just to see what happens if I actually come through here, and this is what I want to happen. So he can get that black ball out, push Michael through, and possibly chip the jack over to himself for a few. I'm taking that just by the hand gestures and the way he's waving his hands there. Just coming in. Looks like he's getting close to the shot that he wants. But instead of getting the jack one way, he has shot at the other. Still holding one. But he's now opened it up for Keenan to draw in here if he can.
Looks a little spicy to me. But prove me wrong, that died in a hurry. Prove me wrong, that died so fast. What do I know? So John's still holding one.
That wide line hasn't been played too much. It's that center path that's been played the most. So it's probably going to be a little slower.
That's a pretty good draw from John. That's
nicely done.
2 Saskatchewan there at the moment, with Keenan's last ball to come. Did Keenan add some weight to this?
No, he did not.
He took some off. That'll be 2 Saskatchewan, I believe. Would make it 19-12. Seven-point game with 2 to go.
Yeah, BC's looking to hopefully pick up a 3 here to bring it within reach. Saskatchewan is just looking to keep it to 1. Even if they can take a 1, they'd be happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Glenn Teller's telling me he's scoreboard flipping on Saturday, so he'll be here for one of the medal games. Which I will say, big thanks to all the volunteers here. They have a flipper for every rink, which is fantastic.
Okay, Mans with a beautiful draw there.
Great shot there from Mike. Next door, it's 13-6. Alberta over Ontario. Ralph is asking if the drive for the two Saskatchewan Bulls a playable option on the screen. That really would depend on the lines on that hand. It's kind of difficult to tell from this angle if the lines were there, because as we've been saying, this ditch hand side has been pretty tricky all week. So that would really be a call for the players to decide. I'm not sure if I can tell you one way or the other. Got a tweet here from John Tupper asking if, just to correct you here, John, it's actually Anna, A-N-N-A, and she's the executive director, not the president. She is present, if that's what you meant. Ask if crowdsourcing is possible for our athletes. That's a very tricky subject, because a lot of people might not know this, but Bulls Canada is actually a registered charity. So that means we can give charitable receipts to people who make donations to us. And that can really help with tax breaks and whatnot. But that means there are a whole lot of requirements about what we can and cannot do in terms of using our money, raising money, advertising, etc., etc. So I'm not sure if crowdsourcing is something that we can publicly promote. I would be pretty sure that our athletes could crowdsource for themselves if they needed assistance to compete at World Championships or whatnot. I don't think there's really anything stopping them that way, but I don't think it's something that we could publicly promote. I could be wrong on that. Anna's definitely the better one to ask, more so than I am. Keenan just got one further behind, but still probably in the count. I don't think he rolled it far enough away. I think John's just looking to reach the back, and he's just stayed in.
Yeah, at this point for Saskatchewan, it's just a matter of matching Bulls and making sure there's no pockets of BC Bulls that they can score multiple points. If they can hold them to a 1-2, they'll be happy with that. And currently Saskatchewan is holding, so they're just playing protection and position.
I think John's going to be playing the other hand here regardless of what the count is or who's second or third shot.
Yep. Got his back one. Now he just needs to play around, make it as difficult as possible for Keenan to get shot or get multiple shots out of this.
Definitely don't want to change much, because that's going to be pretty difficult to kill as well.
Absolutely. There you go.
Okay. Carrie's saying you got to drive. You're down 3. You got to drive. You got to kill it.
So here we go. We'll get to see Keenan drive.
Mm-hmm. That is a very controlled drive. Well, he chipped one in for shot. Shows what happens when you play a controlled drive. You're not killing bulls or making too much of a difference there. That was a very controlled shot. John got quite the rub in response.
Smiles from the two boys there. Yeah, they know what happened. Even Keith in the background, Keith Rooney, having a little chuckle to himself. Luck plays a part sometimes.
Sometimes it pays to be lucky, but I wouldn't say that was a outrageously game-changing shot, though, either.
No, it's a fortunate rub and roll in.
Keenan's playing a little more weight here. Just through.
Yeah, just through.
So that's one for Saskatchewan. And that should just about seal the game. They need a perfect end just to tie, unless this is a measure for two, which I don't think it is. So it's currently 2012, heading into the last end. So, we will be streaming again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. local time, and A7 back as what we always do in the morning. And if I'm reading the schedule right, that's women's fours. That'll be Saskatchewan versus Ontario B. And I will take this moment to give a big thanks to all the sponsors and partners that have been helping out this event here that they found locally. First one I'm going to give a big shout out to is Rich Lock Rentals, as they supplied the scissor lifts that we've been using to put the cameras on. Incredibly useful. Very happy that Davey and Annie Matthew got those for us. During our majors, we do like to have some sort of scaffolding in place to put the cameras up to get a higher angle so people can't walk in front of the cameras. Some of the other local supporters of the event are Splashes Bath and Kitchen, The Ensuite, RVRentVancouverisland.com, that's the BMT Commercial Body and Paint Fleet Maintenance, Susie Han, Triple Crown, National, Foster's Moving and Storage, and the Market Stores. Our pleasure, Ralph. Thanks for talking to us on Facebook there. We're very happy to be live streaming these events, and hopefully we can grow and get better as the years go by. We like to make this as interactive as possible, so if you're out there listening, feel free to send us messages on Facebook and Twitter throughout the game so we can keep you as involved as possible. As Mike threw that bowl, he just said, "Oh God." He knew that he was a little narrow and heavy. Got a request to watch the game next door after this game is done. Well, let me double check and see what the score and end is, and if our cameras will still pick those up. I guess we wouldn't really have to move them all that much. Currently 13-8 for Alberta next door. They're playing the 15th end.
A really great draw here from John. Right on the jack. Can't read this on camera, but someone used one of those liquid chalk pens to write a nice message on John's bowls. I don't know what it is.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was something from Kerry Mans.
Probably.
I highly doubt that Mike was writing a novel to John. Now the Saskatchewan boys are just looking to ride this game out. They're not really too concerned with plus minus, I don't think.
I don't think John's even going to clean off that chalk. He's just going to roll it.
Yeah, just letting it go. Chasing that ball down as he gets all the way to the back. And Keenan missed his target and ended up in the ditch. Looks like he... That might be one for the cameras there. Oh no, wrong buzz.
Trying to take out Kerry. And that's the game, folks.
That is it. So Saskatchewan has finished with a victory. That was 2, so that would make it 22-12. So the Saskatchewan men's pairs has picked up a win over the British Columbia pairs. That is a pretty impressive day for the Saskatchewan lads, as they were tied for first and played the team they were tied with, and then this game here they were playing the team that was second in their pool and went 2-0 on the day. So we have had the request to keep the cameras rolling to look at the next rink over for the Alberta-Ontario game, and we don't really have to move anything or do a whole lot, so we'll just keep the cameras rolling, I suppose.
Unfortunately, in this end, it looks like Derek Dillon has drawn the jack into the ditch, which is cut off by our camera being angled for rink 1. So, where you see that Fred's foot sticking out there, that's about where the jack is.
Yeah, give or take.
Steve about to line up his shot here.
I suppose I could probably try to hop up on the scaffolding and maybe zoom in a little bit, change the angle a little bit.
Greg looking to play into Derek's bowls. That's what Derek's kind of asking for. If he happens to spray a couple more in, great. If he can draw it right through them, fine. It's all good. Pardon us while Jake tries to realign the camera. It's a little stiff at times, so we just want to see as much as we can. You can see where Fred has stepped into the ditch there, and you see the jack. That's where they're actually playing to. There's a lot of space, but playing down to that ditch can be very, very tricky. Greg's just trying to play Derek's bowls up here. Just a little too much. Jake's panning. We got Jake working the cameras. Big round of applause for Jake Schupnick, our dedicated technical coordinator, trying to bring you as much of the live stream and as many of the games as possible. He's up there on the scaffolding, trying to track all these bowls. He's still going to play the other side, try to push either two of Derek's blue bowls in, or Greg's black bowl is just closer to the ditch than those, so he's got 3 options to kind of push in. Flop him over a few times, might count a few more shots. Just flying through the head. Nobody really making a difference. 1 for Alberta. Yeah, now we can focus on you. Just having a quick chat with Freddie. Came over and he's wondering if we actually paid the Patulis to finish early, so now we can focus on the second game, get a little bonus coverage.
So what's the score, 14-8?
Yes, it should be 14-8 now, I believe.
Yeah, so that's the start time and the end time, so I asked them to default scorecards, but they're keeping them all anyway, just in case there's any dispute. So you could go through afterwards. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you at some point if you didn't mind.
Derek with a pretty good opening draw there.
Going around and seeing where the fours are at. We're long past that now. So it'll be tomorrow.
Well, we trialed it.
Might just keep it on this camera angles. You can see where Fred is down there on the top right hand corner of your screen. That's where the mat is anyway. You can see the shadow of Derek Dillon up there as well. He's about to release his bowl. And you'll be able to see the bowl coming all the way down. It's a pretty good angle you can see here.
See if I can update the scoreboard here. I think it's 14-8 for Alberta still, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
This is, I think, their 16th end, if I'm not mistaken. Sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
This is a few times I've seen them bring the mat way up. Every time I look over that game, it seems like someone's got the mat up a fair bit. So Derek has those blue speckled bowls, eh?
Yep.
Everybody else on the rink has black, so that's going to be incredibly difficult to...
We'll try to let you know who's shot and who's not.
Who's shot and who's not.
Looks like right now Freddie's holding one, and Derek's got 3 bundled right in there.
Mm-hmm.
Derek and Greg will be perfectly fine with that, considering they're up a number of points in this game right now. And Derek just improved his position quite a bit.
That's a pretty good shot there.
All 4 of these guys are pretty good bowlers.
Pretty good.
Don't tell them I said that.
I'd never tell them.
Greg Wilson, the skip of the Alberta team, originally from Ontario.
All the way from Burlington, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, yeah. Got a job out in Alberta, living the life. I believe he's a surveyor and works with a crew and goes out to remote areas of Alberta to scope out oil pipelines and whatnot. And I know I've seen some pictures where he's just enjoying it out in the wilderness and playing bowls at the same time and doing quite well.
Could be wrong, but I believe it's his girlfriend that went and liked all of our pictures on Facebook the other day. Got 117 notifications or something like that saying like.
Making it extremely tough for Steve to get a multiple out of this end.
Mm-hmm. Crucial here, with only 3 ends to go. So Ontario B was 3 and 4. Alberta A was 4 and 3 going into this game. With a win, that would boost Alberta up a little bit in the standings, I think. Fred was saying stay out, now in. Greg's haunting this one down. Well, that's a pretty good bowl there.
Yep, just cutting inside. Yeah, Steve's not liking the situation at all.
No. That men's pairs game finished really quickly. That was under 2.5 hours. I've sent David Kalem off to do some reporting and some scouting. The way it's standing right now, although it's possible it might change, is that the intent was to have 4s next year play 18 ends in 2 hours and 45 minutes, but that could very well be a stiff order, so David's out doing rounds right now, seeing where all of the 4s games are right now at the 2 hour and 45 minute mark. Next year, of course, it'll be respot, so without any dead ends, so that'll speed things up a little bit, but he's out to see where the games are at, and that'll help determine if 2 hours and 45 minutes for 18 ends is reasonable or realistic. On the international scene, that's more than reasonable. I've seen a lot of 4s games finished in 2 hours and 15 minutes. So 2:45 isn't really asking too much from that perspective, but given the current 3.5 hour time limit for 18 ends, it's a substantial change.
Yeah, so it's always good to get a little data. We can get some from here, see how long they're taking on average. And
we're definitely going to keep all the scorecards from all of the Forest games, I think, as it tells you the starting time and the ending time, so that'll tell us the total time it took for games. The one thing it doesn't tell us is dead ends, though. I know a lot of teams do end up killing ends, and that adds a whole bunch of time.
yeah, at least you get the average.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't skew it too much.
John Petulli walking by, fresh off a victory. Apparently my mic's fading in and out. That's not good. Not sure why that is.
I'll try to speak louder and enunciate going forward.
Apparently I'm told I can't tell a long story because it fades in and out. So if that's the case, then I'll just keep my talking short, sweet, to the point. Webbo. Wondering if it's the wind.
Craig doesn't like it.
Not a whole lot of change.
No, we'll see what Magic Steve has in his back pocket. See what he can do with this end. I'm sure he'd like to pick up at least a 3 here.
Really confused here. Jurgen's telling me I can't tell a long story because it fades in and out, but not the mic, just the video. So the video's fading in and out? That's odd. Looks okay from our end. Fred's saying very close. Awfully close.
Well, he's getting a bit of a clap.
When the video goes, so does the mic. So I guess the video's cutting in and out, and it's taking the audio with it. That's interesting. Let me see if I can work on that.
Yeah. If anybody else is having any issues with the video feed, just let us know as well. Because if we can see that it's just Jurgen, then maybe it's just Jurgen.
I'd like to think we're pretty funny, Jurgen. Glad you agree. Looks like we might be having some issues with our internet here again. It's not nearly as bad as it was at the start of the week, but it's a great question.
Just gonna get a quick score update. We didn't quite catch what they flashed. As I said, Steve probably wanted to get 3 there, and he did just that. He got 3.
So it's 14-11 here, up and back.
Looking for another bundle of points to get this game. It's unfortunate.
little bit. That's been absolutely beautiful since we got here on Saturday, though.
Absolutely. Sun shining, a little bit overcast one day, but that's it.
See if Derek's close in the ballpark.
Very close.
Shot drawn.
Shot drawn.
That died in such a hurry at the end. I thought that was going to roll just past the black, and it just stopped in a hurry.
Just looking to draw that off. You can catch the jack and just trail it through a little bit. Be beneficial. He's looking at it. He's looking at it. And he got it.
Got her.
Oh, just went the wrong way.
Well, he's still holding one, pinned it on his own.
There you go.
What a great shot. I believe Derek Dillon's the official head coach from Alberta. As he's working his way through the coaching program here in Canada. He's on his way to becoming a performance coach, trained and certified. Jurgen's telling us to just leave it at this camera angle, and that's fine. So that'll be less work for Daryl, and I think we can live with that. So you're not going to get to see anybody deliver here. You're just going to get to watch the bulls come in.
I know Jurgen doesn't need any delivery tips. He's got his down pat.
I'm curious how he would survive here at the majors. How many body parts would fade on him? Jurgen's notorious for pulling an ankle or breaking a bone or pulling a muscle or something. Despite the fact he stays in tremendous shape, he's probably one of the most well-exercised guys I know.
Just giving you a hard time, Jurgen. We love you.
You think Greg is attempting to throw guards here? I would have to think that there's no way that he was trying to draw on that.
So Steve looking for the kill.
Yeah, Steve's letting her rip.
Well, he might have.
Yeah, he's got one out of it.
Yeah. And he's got a trail for 3 or 4 now.
Yeah, he could make a nice little trail there now. A lot more options here now.
Greg playing with a little energy.
Yeah, Greg's got a little bit of weight to this. And crashed on Fred's short bulls there. Steve's going to come down and take a look. So since it's a 3-point game here, drawing 2 is definitely an option for Steve. A little trail for 3 would be okay. And that's something I wouldn't be surprised if Greg tries to avoid.
Steve definitely focusing on his shot right now. Making a determined walk back to the mat. I believe he's gonna try to go for the trail for 4. Fred giving him just a little bit of a foot to say this is where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. This is a very precise shot. You need to be absolutely perfect to make it. He's close too.
Very close. Well, he's got 2 out of it at least.
Yeah, he's holding 2. What are you going to do if you're Greg here?
You want to take away any option he has for 4. You want to get another one in the head there. Play into those 2. If you move them, great. If you just got to give your bull a chance to get in there. Pretty much a shot like Steve did, just maybe even a foot heavier than that.
Derek's trying to coax it in. It's in the ballpark. He was asking for it to fall over and it wouldn't, so
Yeah. It's a good shot from Greg, but not the shot that he wanted, because he wants to prevent Steve from being able to chip that to,
mm-hmm.
I guess, to Steve's right.
Just needed that to come back a little bit more at the end. I'm not sure if that's second or third shot right now. One bull left each for both of these skips.
Steve's giving it a look. He didn't make it.
Nope.
Didn't
Coming
do
up
it. Didn't give
well
it a
short.
shot, yeah.
Weight was sensational, says Derek. Almost the same bull might get him shot if he rests it and flops in. What a beautiful shot from Greg. So that's 1 for Ontario to make it 14-12. Coming home. Early predictions?
I think this is going to come down to the last 2 bowls.
I guess I should say late predictions. This is the last end coming up here, but
It is.
very close game. Almost thought I heard a yodel down on
Is Gord out there
Deck-
making shots?
yeah, Deck B, Gord Legacy from Ontario is very fond of yodeling whenever someone makes a really good shot.
We do have quite the cast of characters right across the right across Canada in bowls.
Right across the board.
You never know what superstitions and little yells and whatnot you're going to get from every player. It's always interesting to see. I'll leave it at this angle. You can just see the top of Fred's shadow in the top right corner of your screen.
Yep. Yeah.
Derek's got a little taller shadow.
So Fred had a really good opener there, and Greg's saying that's a great opener too, which is a pretty good spot to be. So Ontario's looking for a 2 to tie, 3 to win. I don't think at this stage any team is really looking for a tie. Everybody's looking for the wins. Derek's making sure he's reaching with all of his bowls. Not coming up short by any means.
Derek definitely didn't want to do that, but back is better than short. He just wants to be in there to get one or keep them to one. Make it as hard as possible.
Fred's looking for some coverage there too now.
And if they have best back, at least it gives the option for Steve to drag it all the way back without having to worry too much about where it goes.
Greg's hoping it'll come down a little more. Not quite. Very close though. Jurgen's asking me for the Ontario A pair score. There's almost no way I can see that. I would have to run down to the opposite end of the rink to find that.
Just have to go and check bowlscanada.com once the scores are updated.
Yeah, after the end of the round you'll be able to see where things shook down. And it's not very easy for me to run to the other end of the rink either, as there are a whole lot of spectators between me and there. I would have to cut everybody off. That's not something I'm inclined to do at the moment. That's a pretty good effort there from Derek. I can tell you on the deck behind us though, women's pairs. Alberta is playing against Ontario. Not sure if that's A or B, but it's on D2. Alberta is sitting at 14, and they're playing the 17th end. And I can't see Ontario's score because Marilyn Lancaster is right in front of the scoreboard. Further on down, in another women's pairs game, the other Ontario team is playing Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is down 2. Ontario is up 15-13. And I think that's women's pairs as well on number 6, 19-7. For Manitoba over Quebec. 16-14 Ontario over Alberta women's pairs. Steve's about 1.5 feet short, says Fred. Grant Wilkie was walking behind us, and I think Saskatchewan triples are up 4. Yeah, 16-12 over BC. Derek's cheering it on, and that's a pretty good shot. That shot. Fred's looking around. Just gave Steve 2 options. You can either kill it or push mine into the jack. Go with it. Steve's going to try to move it first.
She's still got 2 shots after this. Just missing that.
Well, that certainly changed things. Derek's just calling for Greg to draw another, lock it in. Steve's coming down to take a look, but Greg's not chasing it, so I don't think he likes it. Coming up short.
Well, it'll be interesting, because he might have just exposed the jack a little bit more. Can't quite tell from this angle, but...
2 bulls left for both the skips, so that gives them ample opportunity to shake things up here. Looks like a pretty big target to drive at, but that might be difficult to kill. You'd have to really blast it to get enough jack movement to get through those bulls.
See, John Petulli's hanging around behind this ring to see what's going on. It's obviously means a lot to his group. And Greg kicking bulls into the dirt.
Well, if Alberta wins this, they leapfrog up the standings, and it really depends what Ontario and Nova Scotia do in the other rink over there, as that's 3rd and 4th in the pool currently. So Alberta could potentially leapfrog up to 2nd place with a win. Potentially. Didn't quite hear Dave being that vocal. Dave Steffen, I can hear him over there in the pairs game being a little loud and cheering his bulls on and disappointed with a miss, but when we streamed him, he wasn't all that loud.
I think he was looking for the trail for 4 in that head. He had 2 pretty close and one of Rob's behind, and he just wanted to rub that back to get it away from the closest Nova Scotia bull.
Their head is just at the top of the screen there. You can just make it out as Rob's down to measure right now. This was awfully close. I think Greg's narrow and short there again.
Let's see what Steve's gonna do here.
Really tough to tell what's going on in that head right now. It's a very compact head. And our cameras are half a deck away as well.
Steve's taking a good long look at this head. It's a crucial shot for him.
Not a whole lot that we're commentating on here, as all the skips are walking down, checking things out. Very, very intense finish. Steve's playing into it. That just went through.
Yeah.
And I think they're... Yeah, Greg's not throwing his last bull, so that must mean that's an Alberta win. So, with an Alberta win, that puts them at 5-3, and that should leapfrog them up into at least a tie for second. BCA will also be 5-3, and well, actually, I guess that would actually be a tie for third. Never mind, because either Ontario A or Nova Scotia A will come away as 5-2-1, unless they end up tying this game.
Alright.
Anyway, that's it for us here. We'll pick back up again tomorrow morning. Tune back in at 9 a.m. local time. Thanks for commentating with me again today, Daryl.
Thank you, Jake, for having me, and we'll see you all soon.